Jamie here, JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Friday, February 14th, 328. Going to talk really quick about, it's going to be a quick rant, talk quick about the market, some names I'm looking at, go from there. S&P has been chopping around. I just posted before, it's its tightest range since the start of December, 0.31%. I think the low was 609, high was 610.99. Just impressive, and all in the face of what was, I guess, construed as crazy. The volatility was going to come with CPI Wednesday, PPI Thursday, retail sales this morning came in weaker than expected. Or just on the heels of DeepSeek 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, the tariff tantrum, whatever you want to call it, last Monday. So just remarkable stuff. And then you had Fed Chair Powell this week. So just a lot of things. And then here we are. Almost, I wouldn't say we're back to where we were in December, late November, and into December when we were trading in extremely tight ranges for an insane amount of period. But hey, you never know. But before I start, of course, I just want to talk about Meta and just insane to take a look at Meta and see how it's trading and a lot of it since the Rogan, when Zuck went on and talked to Joe Rogan. I'm not saying that maybe it has nothing to do with it, but coincidence? I don't know. But just remarkable stuff. And then the flip side, you look at all the other Mag 7s and they are struggling, right? So pretty, are they all pulling out? Is it just Mag 1 now? is you subtracting 6 from the Mag 7 to make it a Mag 1? Right now, it looks like in 2025. So that's kind of with the mark. We have a 3-day weekend, so holiday shortened week. There's still plenty of earnings next week, but we got a lot of the data out that could have shaken markets, and now will be more headline driven, I guess, next week. Take a look at the S&P, right? The upper Bollinger Band, 611.29. We got up to 610.99. We erased that lower high, lower low scenario, so that's been negated. So that's another good sign. And you take a look at the VIX, and the VIX, it doesn't even look like we had any volatility on Wednesday, just where it's traded, and finished the day in the red on Wednesday. So some of those metrics you look at have been pretty good indicators, or at least had you hold on to calls as opposed to loading puts or just not loading puts. So anyways, that's the overall market. Some individual names. So Roku right out of the gate, and I was having problems with my streamer. Right it was like, I don't know if it was lag or if there was some issues. So it was kind of like a struggle. So I was trying to get out my the 110s, and I was trying to get some spec calls just in case of continuation. And right out of the gate, Roku broke all the way up to 104. My thoughts. So when I look at the name, I think 120, 130, 140, but then there's still some people who think 80, 70, 60, right? Which creates uncertainty and it creates opportunity, especially when it was up so much. So once it hit 104, I locked the last few of my 110s out for close to 300%. And then I went and got some more strikes into next week just as a FOMO trade, right? Just in case we get a situation where you never know, it could be buyout news over the weekend or there's continuation next week. And I mean, it's still up 15% here. We've seen it so many times over the years where Roku's had some great earnings and it sells off all day long and goes from green to red. And at times, because you have post-traumatic stock disorder, whatever you want to call it, you get worried. It was 96. I'm like, are we having deja vu? And thankfully found some support. It's trading right here at 100. I would love to see it break and close over 100 into the weekend. And then I think maybe it's on the IBD list, or some of these names start to garner some interest after earnings. I think Roku could be one of them. And the earnings yesterday kind of erased some of the competitive concerns, and the fact some people who have sell ratings or who are bearish names think at some point Roku's just not going to exist, right? Because the competitive landscape, they're just gonna get eaten alive, and that hasn't been the case. Anyway, that's Roku. Great move here today. And then you look at the chart, 108 and change. That's the low. That's the highs from November of 2023. And then you pull the chart back and it's blue skies. So if it gets over 108.75 Tuesday, Wednesday, I think it heads to 120. Call me crazy. All right. So that's Roku. Some other names. So WYNN was kind of like a surprise name. I mean, WYNN's my old friend. I've traded off and on for many years, over a decade in the options, right? Back when there was only monthly option strikes on all the stocks. That's how long I've been trading WYNN. It's had some moves, and then you look at where the stock was, and I'm like, I'm not going to get calls for earnings yesterday. They reported a great result, but then the stock was kind of like floundering in the pre-market. And then once it started to go in the morning, I'm like, wow, the calls look heck of a lot less expensive than they did yesterday. So I went and got some spec calls into next week. At points that were close to being a double. I'll just hold them into next week because if you look, it has that China backdrop too, right? If Asian markets rally over the weekend, it just you have that feel. And I've been saying it for the last couple of weekends that at one point there's going to be a crazy China run like we've had in the past. Uh, and if it happens, WYNN's going to be one of those that are going to rally just because, right? And so now it has two catalysts. It has its earnings. It has, well, I would say three because MGM reported a great quarter on Wednesday. So I think you take that all together. I think it's a recipe for it to trade into the mid 90s, if not higher, next week. So that was kind of the thought process there. It wasn't really one of the names I was looking, but once it started to bounce out of the gate, that's when I got those strikes. And you also have the Houston Rockets owner with that finally that beneficial stake. He took it up as high as you can go as a casino owner on WYNN. So he has that huge stake on WYNN. The stock was trading much higher. Well, it was 94, so it went after he announced. Well, he didn't announce. The filing came out. So you never know. He could announce something. All right, so that's WYNN. Teladoc all the way up to 1521. At times, my March 15s were nearly 10 bags. I've sold a lot of those already, so I'm just going to hold them because I think it heads higher anyway. And then my April call, my March calls are back to life. The March 20s, they were up 50%, and then the April strikes that I was looking were up 100%. So I'm not going to add more strikes there. If there is more weakness next week, I'll certainly be adding some April strikes. But what a nice move! I forget how much it's up 15% this week, and that's on the heels of its huge move last week. That's Teladoc. iRobot, on the other hand, iRobot's up 30% this week. So continuation, holding the gains. I think that's a good sign. 1050, it got over 10 for a little bit at about 1115, pull back to 950, then back up to 10, and now it's treading water here at 970. Feels like it's just a ticking time bomb, and then all of a sudden it's going to squeeze. So like the iRobot, I was looking for some March 14s. I'll just sit on my hands for now. And Redfin. So Redfin looks great here today. And I was looking for the March strikes. The premium's a little elevated for earnings. I mean, we got 25 minutes to the close. Maybe I'll wait till next week to grab some strikes. But nice reversal off the morning lows and it hit 888 earlier in the afternoon. It's sitting here almost at 890. I just really like this one. I'm not saying it's going to do a repeat of August where it ran from the sevens all the way up to 15 into mid-September, but I would not rule that out. So don't be surprised if I had more strikes there. Uh, and then Dell. Wow. I mean, I was looking all of a sudden, I'm like, what the heck just happened? And my spec calls on Dell went from nothing to solidly in the green. And so then you scramble for news, and there's reports out that X is going to invest $5 billion in Dell servers. I mean, that's huge news. Unfortunately, the kind of the disappointing part of it is I wish I got the calls into next week because those are up a couple 100% now. But thankful enough to be able to lock some of my spec calls that I got in earlier in the week for about 75%. I wish they were like 25 cents, and I'm like, oh, should I close some here? And then they were 30 cents. I put up some up at 40, and then a couple minutes later, the boom filled. So in hindsight, I probably should have closed them all out, but you never know. So, and it's a Friday. Some of the best trades happen on Friday expiration. So some of the worst trades do as well. So take that with a grain of salt. Probably a name I'll revisit, but I don't know if I was looking, should I get some in the next week? The premiums got elevated, so it didn't make sense, but I'll keep that on watch. And then Lemonade, again, another disappointing session. So 37.23 is at the 50-day moving average. It spiked over that a little bit at the open, dipped down right after the open, then back up to it, and then it's just been chopping around here into the afternoon. So in lieu of adding more strikes, I'll wait till next week on that one. I think that's it, folks. Yeah, crazy moves on some names. Super Micro, Joby's, still got February strikes, but obviously those have taken out a chin. The stock was substantially higher when I added those because I closed out other ones. But I'm surprised Joby hasn't been moving in lockstep with Archer, and that was happening when I had earlier strikes, and now it's I don't know what it. So I'm kind of hesitant adding calls there on Joby. Also, gold selling off today, and gold has not been too friendly to me lately. So in lieu of trying to put more risk on, I'll probably sit on my hands. Also, Solar Edge, last 2 days, I was watching it yesterday too, up to 15. I'm like, should I get some calls? And then here it is at the highs of the day, up at 16. Another name, I think Solar Edge, I've been saying it for a while, but it hasn't panned out. And I've made some money on the call side, but also some calls have expired. At some point, I think this one takes off. That's it, folks. Have a great weekend. I'll be back. Have a great day. Rock and roll.